Yeah, birds are going crazy around the bin. Obviously they see an opportunity for food there. My next door neighbours, they've had their bins out for over a week now. I'm a bit worried. I mean, I hope they're just away, because I guess that's what's happened. They've just gone away and left their bins out. I'm a bit more conservative. I won't put the bins out if I'm going away. I'll just wait until I get back. But yeah, probably pretty safe around here. Weather's a bit inclement, as you can see. I've got to go and get a blood test done at the local pathology place, which I've never done before. This is the Sullivan Nicolaides. Again, apologies to any Greeks with my pronunciation there. That particular chain, as opposed to what was the other one called? QL something or other, Queensland Pathology or whatever. I can't remember. I never remember the name of the other one that I used to go to at Parramatta Park. Anyway, hi. Yeah, just not taking the bike today because it's windy, and I'd be copping another terrible headwind, and I know how badly I'm coping with it at the moment. I think my lung capacity must be absolutely stuffed. So I'm going to walk it, and I got a few things resolved yesterday, except for one thing regarding, I've got my plants delivered, but I thought the actual overall bill I got was about $120 on the card, and then I paid $14 in cash for the potting mix, so that was okay. But it just seemed a bit high considering the amounts I was quoted on each plant. There was only 4 plants in total, plus a couple of really small pot ones, only about $4.50 each. And in the past, they provided a rundown of what you purchased and the price of each item. Not so this time. And there was an absolute stuff up with the delivery as well. So from my perspective, it looks as though Branch's nursery is going downhill. The guy on the weekend I contacted on Saturday about the missed opportunity on Friday, he got back to me, but I sent a message in yesterday just asking for a breakdown of my purchase, and I got no reply. They just ignored me. The other guy rang me back, so he was fine, the one on the weekend, but the guy on the week, during the week, he just ignored it, and I think that's really poor form if you're running a business. They're usually quite reasonably priced, and it might be that I got larger plants. I think the ferns were in larger pot sizes, and you always pay more for that. But I'd just like to know what they cost, and it's not asking much. Anyway, hopefully it can get cleared up, because I wouldn't want to have to look elsewhere. Other interesting fact today I found out is that my banana plant's not doing very well, and apparently they need a lot of nutrition. And the other thing I found out is that you're not allowed to buy a banana plant through Gumtree. It has to be an approved nursery because of potential diseases and what have you. So, I mean, I'm sure that's flaunted, but dueling dogs, typical. At least one isn't chasing me down the road today. I suppose that's one advantage. Yeah, it's actually not that warm. It's overcast, wintry weather, and we've had some nice days, but today's a little ordinary so far. I've got all the plants planted except for the second fern. I've got one of the ferns in the ground. I had to move a fair bit of soil. I've got a fair bit of soil left over from when Northside Raw Materials dropped off earth a long time ago. I've got a stack of it, just got to dig it up. I think what you really should do is, when you get that soil delivered, you should basically move it to where you want to go, because it just coagulates on the ground and it makes it difficult to dig it out. Because it's been affected by the weather and all the moisture. So the smart move would be, once you get that delivery, you either move it yourself or pay someone to do it. And I think I'd probably do the latter these days, get some labourer to do some of that work, because I don't want to do the grunt work with a garden. I just want to do the glamorous stuff, obviously. And I don't know what labourers charge an hour, but it'd be 20-30 bucks, I guess. Probably 30 these days. Australia, everything's going up in price so much. But yeah, that'd be probably good to do. Still want to do something about the kitchen, but the contact John gave me, he hasn't answered. So I could go to CCW, but I want to avoid going to big cabinet places, although they might be quite reasonably priced compared to the bathroom place I went to a few years back. We'll just see. Anyway, a bit of activity out on the road. Hopefully there won't be an issue getting my blood test today, and because I've got to front up at the hospital in a couple of days' time, so it's the first one I've had to do for over a year, I would say. So I haven't been a human pincushion for some time, which is nice. The foil container that the cream Danish or whatever it's called, I can't remember the exact title of it, but it was a dessert. It didn't cook on the underside when I put it on the microwave plate, glass plate that rotates, and when I transferred it to the stand, the metal stand that's coated with some sort of plastic coating, it worked perfectly fine. So if you're using the convection oven, you really do need to use that stand. Although the interesting thing is there's no reference to the stand in the booklet that comes with the actual microwave, the instruction booklet. So that's pretty strange. It's not up to scratch, that's for sure. The information provided is not good enough, and considering Kmart would be selling quite a few of these units, presumably thousands of them, you think they could actually spend a little bit of time making sure that the manual is actually good, because people will be dissatisfied with the results if they're trying to use the convection oven with the microwave plate in the bottom rather than using the stand. Because convection ovens, you want to have your food surrounded by air, hot air, and that's the way to do it, is to put it into a stand in more or less in the center of the oven. Anyway, it worked perfectly well that way. It took the same time as with the other oven, which was pretty crappy, I've got to admit, but still it works fine as far as I can tell. And the other thing I tested it with was cooking up potatoes, roasting potatoes in a metal tray, and with immersed or covered with olive oil and salt, and that worked perfectly well. It took the same time as it would in the normal oven, the Decon Cactus, so it worked as well as the oven I previously had. But the advantage of this is, of course, it's at a higher level. It's on the bench, so it's actually closer to eye level, which I prefer. So that worked out well. And third thing I did just last night was cook a pizza. I got frozen pizza, and that worked perfectly well. It took 20 minutes, which is exactly the same as what we normally would. It was a thin crust pizza, which I haven't tried before, but certainly there was no problem with the cooking. It did a bloody good job in my opinion. Really, it was very good. So I'm getting confident enough maybe to do the joint of lamb, because that's 30 bucks worth of meat and I don't want to stuff that up. But I have no doubt if the spuds, the diced spuds that I put in the tray, if they can brown up in this to the same degree that they do in the normal oven, I see no reason why a joint of meat which has been properly defrosted shouldn't cook at around the same time, if not slightly longer, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I actually like it because I can see the meat cooking as well. That's the other advantage. Believe it or not, my oven, the one that died, is so old it didn't even have a glass door to check out the interior. Well, it's going to be a marathon walk back to the the bus stop on Cook Highway because I'm heading off to the down to where Cairns Hospital is again, so it's going to be a long trip. Got a couple of appointments there that are strung out, so I might actually go and visit Lynn in the interim. We'll see how it all pans out. Yeah, it's about almost 8 o'clock, almost 9 o'clock I should say, and I've got a 10 o'clock appointment, so that's how long it takes to get down there via bus. Not super efficient compared to car, which would probably be about 25 minutes max, but it's cheap. It's only cost me $4.80, so it's pretty damn cheap. Well, I finally pulled my finger out and had a go at doing my second batch of the Dockside Stout, and exactly the same thing happened as the previous time. I put some more lactose in this time, put about 1 kilo of lactose, which apparently sweetens up the brew a bit. It might add a bit of alcohol as well, but the problem is, of course, even in winter weather where it's definitely cooler, I still got the overflow going through the airlock, so it's, you know, a sort of a caramel coloured bubbling through the airlock, and then get condensed into the liquid that should be making my stout. So I had to mop that up several times this morning. It didn't seem to be as violent as the previous time, and that is presumably because it's not as hot, but it's still doing it now. I've got to head off for the day, and when I come back, probably the lid will be covered with that liquid that makes up my brew, because this just comes out via the airlock, just pops out the top, and like I say, condenses on top of the lid. So not ideal, but at least there's a fair chance it will be drinkable. My major issue with it is I don't get a decent head on the stout, and that may be the case this time as well. To be fair to the home brewing, the Marlin Coast Home Brewing, when I rang them, they did ask me how big was my fermenter, and it seemed to be the decent size, but it just doesn't seem to be big enough for this. It needs to be more space for the bubbling brew on top of the liquid to expand into, and it just isn't, and it's forced up through the airlock. So that's a bit of a tip for if you're into home brewing. I'm actually taking my big umbrella today because it's looking a bit dodgy out. I looked at the radar, didn't look too bad, but you can't trust the radar. A friend contacted me who I shared a house with in Brunswick years ago, and she's up here to see a friend. His friend stays at Clifton Beach, so she's doing okay. So that's the adjoining suburb, and we're going to go out to Yorkie's tonight, Yorkie's Knob, and I'll introduce them to my favourite meal. So they should be popping around 6 tonight, and we'll head off there. I offered a couple alternatives closer by, but they weren't enthralled, so we'll just Yorkie's it is, which is fine by me, as long as her friend's happy to drive that distance. That's okay. It's not that far. I mean, it's probably a quarter of an hour drive, I guess. It's up this way, so it's not too bad, but it's difficult to get to by public transport because you have to change buses in Smithfield. So I mean, I'm grateful for there being bus service here, but it's still limited. The one that goes past Lynn's place is pretty convenient, except it only runs once an hour, 7 days a week. Makes no difference whether it's weekend or weekday. So I've got a 10 o'clock appointment, and you know what doctors are like. I won't actually see the doctor till about half hour after the appointment time, and so then after that get out about 11:15. That makes it reasonably feasible to catch that bus, so we'll see what happens, because I've got another appointment at 2 o'clock, so it's a bit inconvenient getting 2 appointments spread over a 4-hour gap. It's not great. And tomorrow night I'm going to do the meetup thing. I'm going to catch up with the meetup people again. It's an earlier start, 4 o'clock at Trinity Beach. I'll walk there, I think, unless I've got to go to Smithfield. I'm waiting on my glasses to be picked up, my new glasses. I haven't heard back from them yet. They should be getting in contact with me soon. And that'll be good. And and I might be catching up with a couple of subscribers on Saturday. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, so it's going to be pretty full social book this week. And I'll squeeze in a bit of supermarket shopping today. And we've got good old tax time looming soon too, and the ATO seems to want to make life difficult for me, because they sent me an email saying that they're going to have pre-fill in the returns, but it's going to be done around something like August, so that's useless, and it's always inaccurate anyway, their pre-filled data. Some of it's accurate, but it's not reliable overall. So I wish they'd just keep their sticky figures out of it personally, because I'd like to get myself a return quickly, but it looks as though it's not going to happen. It's not that I really need that money. Actually, I bought some shares yesterday. I bought SHV shares. I think it's called. It's a strange designation for those shares. They're an almond producer in Australia, and I got them at the lowest price I've ever seen. As a matter of fact, they dropped below $5 at one stage, which I've never seen before. I got to about $4.47. I got them for $5.01 and $5.07, so it wasn't bad. And then I read that there's actually been some damage to the crop, because there's a disease amongst honeybees, and they're the method that pollinates the plants, the almond tree. So it's going to affect the crop. So that's a problem. So there you go. So hopefully it wasn't a bad choice still, because it is a very low price, and I think food-related stocks aren't a bad thing to invest in at the moment. My GrainCorp stock, which I sold a while back, I should have held on to them as it turned out. They're just too expensive to buy right now because of the grain shortage, because of the Ukraine conflict that's having effect on those type of stocks. You talk about low-hanging cloud. Look at that. Quite atmospheric, but it'd be nice to have a little bit of sun poking through. I heard this female voice behind me, and I think, what the hell's going on there? And she was walking a dog, and she was trying to alert me without just scaring me by going straight past, but it still gave me a bit of a well, I wouldn't say scared, but I was just surprised. So that was the only person I've encountered on this walk up here today. Whew. Now the next major challenge is getting the bus I want, which is the 110 rather than the 111. They're scheduled to arrive at exactly the same time, so you can do you can cross over from one to the other, but that doesn't work in practice, because you just don't know which bus is going to be there before the other. So if you're on the 111 like I usually am, it's hard to know whether it's coming before the 110 or after it. And if it's after, it's useless. My nightmare scenario would be if they both arrive at the same time, and I can't see the numbers on the front of the bus until they're really close. So it's one of those occasions where my crappy eyesight is a bit of a hindrance. So we'll just hope if there's someone waiting for a bus, that could work out. They can tell me. Otherwise, just hope that they don't turn up at the same time. When I got the bus to Lynn's place, something similar happened, and the bus I wasn't looking for came first, and luckily I walked up to the one behind it, which happened to be the one I wanted. So yeah, it can be a pain sometimes on public transport on a busy route where you've got a number of buses, for someone with crap eyesight anyways. And here's the bus stop. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you think there's anything there of use to you or entertainment or whatever. And either do that or give me a thumbs up, or if you're feeling really energetic, do both. That'd be great.